They didn't laugh when they saw me. They didn't have to. That pause when you walk into a room, when people decide your worth without saying a word, their eyes scanned my shoes, my jacket, my hands, and just like that, I was labeled as someone who didn't belong. I've seen that look before, not just in strangers, but in boardrooms, in rooms where silence spoke louder than introductions. My name is Daniel Carter. I've never been famous. I've never chased attention, and I've never believed money should speak before character. To my son, I was simply Dad, the man who lived quietly, the man who drove an ordinary car and wore the same jackets year after year, the man who never talked about work at the dinner table. What he didn't know was that for over 25 years, I worked as a senior executive for a multinational corporation. I managed regional operations across multiple U.S. states. I oversaw teams of thousands and budgets that could reshape entire markets. But I kept my life simple by choice, because I learned early on that real power doesn't announce itself, it observes. Before I go any further, do me one favor. If you believe respect should never depend on money, stay till the end and subscribe. This story carries a lesson most people learn too late. One Tuesday evening, my son called me. His voice was careful, the kind of careful that tells you something matters more than it sounds.
"Dad," he said, "my wife's parents are visiting from overseas. They want to meet you. We're having dinner this Saturday at a restaurant downtown." I could sense the tension immediately. I asked him, "What do they know about me?" There was a pause. Not an empty pause, a heavy one. Then he said quietly, "I told them you live simply, that you work a normal job, that you're not wealthy." Not wealthy. I didn't feel insulted. I felt disappointed, because I had seen this behavior before. People preparing their judgment before meeting the person. I didn't correct him. I didn't explain. Instead, I looked around my apartment. Modest furniture, old books, familiar silence. This place had seen my hardest years, the years when I slept in my office, the years when success cost me time I could never get back, the years when I chose discipline over comfort. And in that moment, I made a decision. If they expected to meet a poor man, I would let them. Saturday evening arrived. I chose my oldest blazer, left my watch at home, and took a cab instead of driving. As the cab moved through the city, I watched people rush past the window, everyone chasing something. Status, validation, proof. I didn't feel nervous. I felt calm. The restaurant was expensive in a quiet, confident way. No flashy signs, no loud music, just wealth you don't see on price tags but feel in the air. The moment I walked in, the energy shifted. My son stood up quickly. His wife smiled, polite but tense. Her parents stayed seated. Their eyes evaluated me, not with curiosity but calculation. The father adjusted his cufflinks. The mother's gaze paused on my shoes a second longer than necessary. No one offered to pull out my chair. No one asked if I'd like a drink. I sat down calmly. The sound of cutlery felt louder than the conversation. Glasses clinked. Silence filled the gaps words avoided. At first, the conversation stayed polite, but politeness, I've learned, can be sharpened into a weapon. They talked about their travels, Paris, Monaco, Dubai. The father casually mentioned a villa in southern France. The mother laughed and said, "Some people still take taxis, I can't imagine." She glanced at me when she said it. I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt aware. My son avoided my eyes, not out of shame, but confusion. I remembered teaching him how to shake hands,
how to look people in the eye, how respect had nothing to do with wealth. Then the questions came. "So, Daniel," the father said, "what line of work are you in? Still working full-time at your age? Must be difficult managing expenses these days." Each question was wrapped in a smile. Each smile carried judgment. When the waiter arrived, the mother ordered confidently for everyone. Then she looked at me. "He'll have something light," she said. "No need for anything extravagant." I nodded politely. Throughout dinner, they spoke about investments, connections, and status, but never once did they ask who I was as a person. Near the end of the meal, the mother leaned forward. "We've been discussing something," she said gently. "We know life can become challenging when income is limited." She paused. "We'd like to support you, a small monthly allowance, so our son-in-law doesn't feel burdened." I didn't feel angry. I felt clarity. Support. What she meant was control, distance, erase yourself quietly. I placed my napkin on the table and spoke. "You've spoken about money all evening," I said calmly, "but you never once asked if I was happy." The table went silent. I started my life with nothing, no connections, no safety net, just work and discipline. I remembered the nights I chose responsibility over rest, the mornings when success felt heavier than failure. I looked at them directly. "I earn more in a month than most people realize," I said evenly, "and I've never needed it to feel important." Their expressions changed. "I oversee operations across multiple states," I added. "I manage teams and responsibilities most people never see." I placed my card on the table, quietly. No logos, no announcement. The waiter returned with the bill. There was a hesitation, a glance between them, a whisper I wasn't meant to hear. Then the bill slid toward me. I paid without comment. I stood up. "Money doesn't buy class," I said softly. "It only reveals who you already are." I turned to my son. "I raised you to respect people, not status. That will always matter more than anything I own." And I walked out. Outside, the night felt quieter, lighter. Later that evening, my phone rang. It was my son. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He said, "Thank you, Dad." I smiled. Not because I proved anything, but because he understood. For the first time that night, I wasn't judged. I was finally understood. If this story reminded you that respect has nothing to do with wealth, subscribe, because the world needs more character, not status.